बोलो श्री कृष्णचंद्र भगवान की जय, गीता मैया की जय। Let's begin with Ganesh Ji Bhagwan Prarthana, फिर गीता ध्यान। ओम विनायकं गुरुं भानु ब्रह्म विष्णु महेश्वरान् सरस्वतीं प्रणम्यादो सर्वकार्यार्थ सिद्धये। गीता ध्यानम्। ओम पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी। नमोस्तुते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवे ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय सर्वोपनिषदो गावो पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता वसुदेवसुतं देवं देवकी परमानन्दम् मूकं करोति वाचालं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैर्गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरसुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः। बोलो सच्चिदानंद भगवान की जय। तृतीयोऽध्यायः। In second chapter we spoke about knowledge. Bhagavan Shri Krishna gave very high level of knowledge जिसको हम सांख्य योग कहते हैं to Arjun. He spoke about indestructible nature of the soul. He spoke about param dharma, param tattva. Now in the third chapter, Arjuna has a very logical question for Bhagavan Shri Krishna. देखिए, Arjuna uvacha jayasi chet karmanaste jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana mata buddhir janardana tatkim karmani ghore माम नियोजयसि केशव। पूरा श्लोक बोलो। जायसी चेत कर्मणस्ते मता बुद्धिर्जनार्दन तत्किं कर्मणि घोरे माम नियोजयसि केशव। Arjuna says, hey Keshav, if you are saying that knowledge is superior to action, agar gyan shreshta hai, why do you ask me to perform this action? Because this action is very tatkim karmani ghore, very terrible. You're asking me to go to war, you're asking me to kill all of the Kauravas. Mam niyojayasi Keshava. Why do you engage me in this terrible action? Vyamishrene vavakyena buddhim mohayasi vame tadekam vadanischatya yena shreyo hamapnuyam. Arjuna says, it seems as if what you're telling me is a little bit conflicting. On one hand, you say that Atma is Avinashi, nothing can destroy the Atma, ye sharir kuch nahi hai. And then on the other hand, you're telling me, no, you must go. Tasmat uttishta kaunteya yudhaya kritanishchaya. You must go and you must fight. If the Atma is so powerful and so indestructible, then what is the need for me to engage in this karma? What is the need for me to go and fight with the Kauravas? If they will not die in this war, then they will die next year, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Why do you ask me to get my hands dirty? Why is it that I have to be faced with this terrible choice? So Bhagavan Shri Krishna gives his reply, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Lokesmin Dvividha Nishtha Pura Prokta Maya Nagha Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, Arjun, in the beginning of creation. So, if somebody is speaking about the beginning of creation, like when I tell you, when we were building the Mandir, right? So, aap us samay nahi the, but if I'm telling you, it means obviously I was there. So, if Bhagavan is saying at the beginning of creation, it means he was there, obviously. So, he is also reminding Arjun ki main Bhagavan hu. I gave two paths towards me. There are two paths of devotion. Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam, which we discussed in chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga, knowledge, and Karma Yogena Yoginam. And then I gave the path of action, Arjuna. He goes on to say, Nakarmanam Anarambhat Naishkarmyam Purushoshnute Nacha Sanya Sanadeva Siddhim Samadhigacchati Siddhim Samadhigacchati. He says to Arjun, what you are thinking about is called Naishkarmyam. Naishkarmyam means a state where you are not troubled by karma. A state where aap karma se upar aa gaye. But he tells Arjuna, your delusion is thinking that by not performing action, then you rise above karma. This is your delusion. This is what he is telling Arjuna. You know, you have lots of people who, Bharat mein, bilkul kisi kaam ke nahi hai. They don't do anything. They were failure in school and they don't want to do work as well. Aalasi log hai. So they go in ashram, Guruji, aapke sharan mein aaya hu. Main sannyas lena chahta hu. So these kinds of people, they have a misconception about what is Naishkarmyam. The true sannyasis, you'll see in Bharat, many of them sannyas lene ke baad, even after becoming sannyas, they're still studying. Or they're still doing some seva, teaching children or doing some work, right? Just because you're sannyas doesn't mean you just sit and do nothing. Khali nahi baithna hai. This is what Bhagavan Krishna is saying. Arjun, I want you to rise above karma, but you cannot do so by giving up all action. Because you don't understand ki karma kya hai, what really is the true tattva of action. In fact, nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishtat tya karmakrit jatu tishtatya karmakrit nahi kaschit kshanamapi. Ek kshan ke liye bhi you cannot exist without performing some kind of action. Even when you are sleeping, the body is still performing action, yes? You are still breathing, your blood is still flowing, heart is still pumping, the neurons in your brain are still firing. So Bhagavan Krishna says, Arjun, simply by giving up all work, simply by giving up all karma, nobody obtains siddhim samadhigacchati. You do not obtain perfection. Because the reality is, it is impossible to stop doing work even for 1 second. Karyate yavashah karma sarva prakriti jayar gunaihi. We are all We are all being propelled by the three gunas, which we will see later on in Bhagavad Gita, Rajogun, Tamogun, Satogun. Bhagavan Krishna is saying, this entire Shrishti, this entire Maya, this entire world is constantly in a state of action. You being in this world, you are also constantly in a state of action. So just by sitting here, you cannot make yourself free from karma. This is what he is trying to explain to Arjuna. In fact, karma indriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimuratma mithyachara sa uchyate. Bhagavan Krishna says, there are some who you will see who sit in meditation and sit in sannyas ashram and they pretend to not care about the world. But हम लोग तो नहीं देख सकते, लेकिन भगवान हमारे मन के अंदर देख सकते. That's why he's called Antaryami. Antaryami means, in Sanskrit, Antaha means inside. जो हमारे अंतः देख सकते हैं, the one who can see inside of us. So Bhagavan Krishna says, I see many people who claim to be free of all material effects, but in their mind they are constantly thinking about material objects. They are constantly thinking about the senses. He says to Arjuna, these people are mityachara, hypocrisy. They are hypocrites. Yastvindriyani manasa niyam yara bhaterjuna karmendriyaihi karmayogam asaktaha sa vishishyate. Bhagavan Krishna says, the real path of karma is not to stop doing work. The real path of karma is, aap kaam karte raho. Keep doing your work, but karma indriyehi karma yogam. But your mind is in full control. You are not dominated by the senses. You are not ruled by kam, krodh, lobh, moha, ahamkar. Aap kaam karte ho, but you do not let these things control you. You realize that whatever you're doing, it is just your obligation. Aapka karma hai, aapka dharma hai, but you are in control, not the senses. Remember, we have the sharir. Sharir is ruled by the indriyas, which we call the senses. Here, indriyas are ruled by the, you remember what we said? Indriyas are ruled by the manaha, manasa, right? And then the man is ruled by our buddhi. And then higher than the buddhi is our atma. So Bhagavan is saying, when the indriyas are in charge of your entire sharir, when the indriyas are ruling the man, when the indriyas are ruling the buddhi, so that is no way to live in the world. The mind must control the indriyas and the buddhi must control the mind. Bhagavan Krishna says, verse number 8, Niyatam kuru karma Tvam karma jayo hya karmanaha Sharirayatra chate na prasiddhyeda karmanaha. This line is very important. He says, Arjuna, perform your obligatory action. Obligatory means niyatam karma. All of us have niyatam karma. Niyatam karma means very basic. When you wake up in the morning, sharir ka dhyan aapko rakhna hi padega. You have to brush your teeth, you have to take a snan. Otherwise, if you go outside, people will see you, they will laugh at you and they don't want to interact with you, right? Ek aisa admi hai, he doesn't even know how to take care of himself. So, Bhagavan says, niyatam karma. And that obligatory action also extends to your chatra dharma, grihastha dharma. If you're a student and you have to study, you do not get blessings for studying if you're a student. That's not something that Bhagavan gives you punya for. That is niyatam karma, obligatory action. If you don't do it, aapko hani hoga, right? But if you do it, Bhagavan aapko punya nahi dete hain, but aapko labh mil sakta hai. Doing your work, doing your job, you don't get blessings for going to work. So that is something that you have to do, because if you don't do it, then you don't have a place in the world, right? Bhagavan is saying, action is superior to inaction. Jayo hyakarmanaha. You must perform some action, Arjuna. Those who think that they can do nothing, actually you have become a burden on the system. Let me give you an example. Second line, Bhagavan Krishna is saying, Sharira yatrapi chate na prasiddhye dakarmanaha. एक भिखारी की उदाहरण देता हूँ. Example of a beggar. Forget about why they're a beggar. Let's just assume that they have chosen to be a beggar, right? Not because of any bad circumstance or physical illness. They have just given up in life. अब और प्रयास नहीं करना है. I'm just going to sit on the road. लोग मुझे जो भी देते हैं, I will accept that and move on, right? So they might feel as if they're in a neutral state, as if they are not performing any action. But Bhagavan Krishna says, you are never in a neutral state. You are either giving or you are consuming. And when they exist in this way, they're still breathing oxygen. They still have to eat. Somebody has to feed them. Somebody has to give something to feed them. If nobody gives, then the government will have to provide some assistance. So actually you are not in a neutral state. You are consuming resources, and these resources are being given by someone else. If nobody is giving, then government is giving. Who is funding the government? Taxpayers are funding the government. So when you are consuming without doing anything, you are going further into spiritual debt. You are going further into karmic debt, because now ये सबके उधार आपके ऊपर है. All of the people who are giving you these things, now you owe them. You owe them something that you have to pay them back, not in this life, but in the next life. So this is the illusion of neutral state in life. There is no neutral state. That is why we encourage you to always do something. Kuch to kariye. And if you see the real sannyasis in Bharat, they are not just sitting in the ashram doing nothing. They have spent their time and studied and gotten their PhD. Let us say the ashram is taking care of all of the financial requirements, right? इनकी कोई खर्चा नहीं होते हैं. खाने पीने की व्यवस्था, पढ़ाई की व्यवस्था, everything the ashram is doing. But after they finish studying, then they teach the children. And when they are teaching and they are giving their knowledge, they don't get any payment for that because they are sannyasi. But they are repaying the debt that has been given to them by the ashram, by the organization. So ये असली संन्यास है. So Bhagavan is saying, in the same way, we can also be in this state, in Grihastha ashram, in Vidyarthi avastha. Jnanarthat karmano nyatra. Jnanarthat, बोलिए. कर्मणो न्यत्र लोकोऽयं कर्म बन्धनः. Karma bandhanaha. Bhagavan Krishna says, this entire world is bound together by karma. Everything is performing some action. Nature is performing some action. The oceans are doing some action. The trees and the plants, everything is performing some action. Prithvi Lok, which is spinning on its axis, is also performing an action which causes gravity to keep everything together. Tadartam karma kaunteya mukta sangaha samachara. So he's telling Arjuna, the solution is not to don't do any action. Arjun ka dharma kya hai? He is a Kshatriya. His dharma is to fight against adharam. Kauravas are fighting on the side of adharam, so Arjuna's duty is to fight against them, no matter what the outcome. So he is asking Bhagavan, why do I have to fight if you are saying that knowledge is better than action? So now Bhagavan is saying to him, Arjun, whether you have knowledge or not, you have to understand कि इस जन्म में आप क्षत्रिय हो, आप कर्म योगी हो. You are karma yogi. And most of us here today are karma yogis, right? And we are bound by action. Karma bandhana. Once we are living in this world, we are bound by action. And Bhagavan Krishna says the real secret is tadartam karma kaunteya mukta sangaha. Mukta sangaha. Sangaha means attachment. Mukta means mukti, to be free. If you can perform your action but be free from the Be free from the attachment. That is the best way, and that is who is called the karma yogi. अब कहने के लिए बहुत आसान है. Do work, don't be attached to the fruits. But some attachment is always there, right? Human nature. As we go on in the chapter, you'll understand. Bhagavan samjha denge. How do we get that attachment slowly out? Sahayagyaha prajaha shristva purovacha prajapati anena prasavishyadhvam anena prasavishyadhvam eshavo stvishtva kamadhuk. Bhagavan Shri Krishna now gives Arjuna a little bit of history lesson. He says this world runs on yajna. Yajna doesn't only mean like when we do Bhagavad Yajna, Ramayana Yajna. Yajna means any kind of action, any kind of sacrifice. He says in the beginning, Devatas appoint somebody as Prajapati. When this Prajapati does Yajna, then Shrishti starts to occur in this world, working on the instructions of Brahmaji. Mankind starts to multiply, and then the human race starts to grow. Devan bhavayata anena te deva bhavayantuva parasparam bhavayantaha shreya paramavapsyatha. Bhagavan Krishna says, Arjun, even the devatas are bound by karma. This is a very important concept as well. We have the 14 lokas, of which Prithvi Lok is in the middle. At the very top we have Swargalok, at the very bottom we have Patal Lok. You can Google this, you'll find it online. So Bhagavan Krishna says, Arjun, everyone existing in all of these lokas, including the devatas, they are also bound by karma. Ye karma bandhan not only for Prithvi Lok. Prithvi Lok is special because Paap or Punya is only possible on Prithvi Lok. But when you go to other loks, you cannot get new Paap or new Punya, but you can expend. You can use up your good karma, you can be punished for your bad karma. But आप केवल पृथ्वी लोक पर कमा सकते हो. You can only earn here. When you go there, you have to spend. But everybody is bound by karma, even the devatas, and they also have their roles. Bhagavan Krishna is explaining, Prajapati has his role, Indradev has his role, Varun, Agni, Pavan, they all have their roles, and none of them can stop doing action. Everybody is constantly engaged in action. Ishthan bhogan hi vo deva dasyante yajna bhavitaha ter dattana pradayebhyo yo bhungte stena eva saha. Remember the example I gave you about the beggar who thinks he is neutral, but he is taking from the system, taking from the people. Bhagavan Krishna says that devatas, they are replenished by the performance of yajna. And then using their powers, they sustain this world. Those who live in this world and do not perform yajna, they're living like a thief, because they're enjoying the benefits of Prithvi Lok, but they're not giving anything back. Why do we come and we do all of these pujas, bandhu? We do Navagraha puja, Kalash Sthapan. We're constantly giving thanks to Bhagavan. We offer prasad, we do havan, we do arti. We are constantly giving something back to the devatas, because we understand and recognize that their energy is fueling the world, right? They are giving us blessings, they are performing their role in nature. Bhagavan says, when you do not give something back, you are living like a thief. You know a thief who is not paying any taxes? When they steal something, they're not declaring to CRA how much money they stole. They're keeping all of it and they're spending it, right? So they're not giving anything back. That is what Bhagavan Krishna is trying to explain to you. Or, yajna shishta shina santo मुच्यन्ते सर्वकिल्बिषैः
मुच्यन्ते सर्वकिल्बिषैः
भुञ्जते ते त्वघं पापा
भुञ्जते ते स्वकं पापा
ये पचन्त्यात्मकारणात्.
ये पचन्त्यात्मकारणात्.
When we say yajna, we don't only mean spiritual yajna. We mean doing anything for someone else. Paropakara. Bhagavan Krishna says, Arjun, when you do for others, your sins are washed away. Lekin bhunjante te vagham papa. Those who cook food only for themselves, jo apne pet hi barte hain, they are unknowingly incurring sin. Because you are constantly taking from the universe without giving anything back. Annad bhavanti bhutani
भवन्ति भूतानि
parjanyadanna sambhavaha
पर्जन्यादन्नसम्भवः
yagyad bhavati parjanyo
यज्ञात् भवति पर्जन्यो
yagyah karma samudbhavaha.
यज्ञः कर्म समुद्रवः.
Bhagavan Krishna says the entire world needs food to survive. Sabko anna chahiye. Right? Where does food come from? First you need rain. Without rain, none of the crops will be able to bear fruit. Bhagavan Krishna says, and this is proven scientifically from Ayurveda, that when we used to do havanam in the ancient times, now we don't have all of these samagri, but there is special samagri you will put in Agnidev, so that when the smoke will rise into the atmosphere, it stimulates the varsha, it stimulates the clouds. Yagyat bhavati parajanyo. When you perform yajna, when this smoke rises in the atmosphere, then varsha comes from that. Or yajna karma samudbhavaha. Yajna is born of karma. People have to perform the yajna. So we do karma. Karma leads to yajna. Yajna leads to rain. Rain leads to crops being born on the world. Bhagavan Krishna says, this is one of the simple ways in the agricultural avastha of Bharat that people used to operate under. In the modern day, we don't physically mean that you have to do yajna all of the time, Agni Homam, but yajna here means to do action for the community, to do action in the country, to do action to help sustain other people. And by doing that, you are providing sustenance, you are providing annam for others. So not physical rain, but rain in the form of kripa. Bhagavan then blesses everyone, and that is the cycle that we have in the modern day. Karma brahmod bhavam vidhi brahmakshara samudbhavam
ब्रह्माक्षर समुद्रवम्
tasmat sarvagatam brahma
तस्मात् सर्वगतं ब्रह्म
nityam yajne pratishtitam.
नित्यं यज्ञे प्रतिष्ठितम्.
Bhagavan Krishna says, Arjun, karma comes from Ved. The 4 Vedas which I have given to the world at the beginning of creation, they talk about doing karma. And Vedas are ananta. Vedas are imperishable. They will always be there. Therefore, Arjun, understand that yajna is a critical part of life. And when we speak of yajna, once more, recapping, yajna means to perform action for others, right? Niyatam karma, obligatory action that you do for yourself. And yajna means action for others, action in the society. Evam pravartitam chakram
एवं प्रवर्तितं चक्रं
nanu vartayati hayah
नानुवर्तयति
aghayu rindriyaramu
अगायुरिन्द्रियाणां
mogham partha sajivati.
मोगं पार्थ सजीवति.
Bhagavan Krishna says, who lives in the world only for gratification of the senses, agharuya indriya ramu, they live only to make the senses happy. तो ये जीवन व्यर्थ है इनके लिए. This life that they are living, it is a life lived in vain. If you cannot do something for someone other than yourself, if you cannot do something that is bigger than yourself, if you exist only to feed yourself, and when you leave the world, who will remember you? But you have to do something for other people. That's one of the reasons why we have families, and we have our children, we do something for them, and we hope that they will come and make a positive impact in the society. So Bhagavan Krishna is saying, this is called progressive action. So you have to have a net positive impact on the world by the time you're ready to leave. If you're ready to leave this world and you have not really made an impact in anyone's life, nobody will remember you, you have not made things better, things are the same way. So then that jivan is vyartha. And this is one concept that especially Hindus, especially Indians understand very well. Always you see the next generation is doing better than the previous generation. And it's partly because we believe in education, but it's also because we believe in these values. We believe in progression. If your children are at the same level that you're at, financially, spiritually, right, and same level of sophistication, then you have not really done a great job. Your children should be better than you because you have worked very hard to give them opportunities. They should have the benefit of all of the years of experience that you have had. The Bhagavan Krishna is saying you have to exit this cycle and start moving up, not just spinning over and over and over again in a circle. Naiva tasya krite nartho na krite neha kaschana nachasya sarvabhuteshu kaschidartha vyapashraya. Bhagavan Krishna says, Arjun, by performing action in this world, by performing obligatory action, niyatam karma, there is no papam. By trying to run away from action, then you can get a little bit of pap. If you have obligations and you are not fulfilling those obligations, agar aap chhatra ho and your parents are spending money for you to study and then you are wasting time, you're not going to class, you're not studying, so aapko pap lagega. If you are in grihast ashram and you are not taking care of your family, so aapko pap lag sakta hai, right? So Bhagavan is saying, no one can run away from action. Even the devatas are bound by karma, karma bandhana. So never feel that, Arjun, simply by choosing not to fight in this war, that you are giving up action. You're not giving up action. You're moving into a negative net loss. Because this is your obligation, and now you are running away from your duty. Karmaneva hisam siddhim astitha janakadayah lok sangrahamevapi sampashyan kartumarhasi. We'll stop here at this shloka, but Bhagavan Krishna gives one example. He says, Arjun, in Treta Yuga we heard of Raja Janak. Janak ji was an example of a perfect karma yogi. And Janak ji was somebody who obtained perfection only through karma yoga. And perfection in the sense that you have to be very powerful for Mata Lakshmi to be born as your daughter. Yes? She will only pick a very special person who is a very great devotee. So Bhagavan Krishna, sometime in the future will speak about Raja Janak and what made him so great. But he tells Arjuna that this path of action is a path that can lead to perfection. If you cannot go on the path of knowledge, right, then you can become a karma yogi. So path of knowledge is a little bit difficult for us who are living in the Western world because we don't have access to all of these great gurus and great acharyas who may only be found in Bharat. We don't have the time also to sit and study all of these dharma shastras. But in your karma yoga, you can become karma yogi. When you perform all of your duties with great excellence, you study very well, you excel at your job, you come to Mandir, you perform yajna, you give back to your society. Bhagavan Krishna says, isi marg mein aapko shrishtata milega. You can get perfection in this path. Okay? So we'll stop here, everyone. We did 20 shlokas today, moving at a nice pace. Yes? Anyone have any questions about the shlokas we did today? You missed 19?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let's do 19 now. Tasmad asaktaha satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hyacharan karma
असक्तो याचनं कर्म
paramapnoti purushah.
परमाप्नोति पुरुषः.
Bhagavan Krishna tells Arjun, he reminds him, obligatory action. Arjun, satatam karyam karma samachara. You have to perform this action. And for Arjun, this obligatory action is to fight in this war. But he tells Arjun, asakto hyacharan. If you can do it without attachment, you are not fighting out of greed for this kingdom. You are not fighting out of hatred for the Kauravas. Ye virod bhi aap tyag do. You do not hate Duryodhan. You have to put all of that aside. You are fighting because you are on the path of Dharam, and the forces of Adharam are threatening to wipe out all of you. So you must fight for the sake of Dharam. If you can keep that mindset, karma paramavapnoti purushaha, then you can obtain param purush, then you can obtain maryada, then you can obtain shreshtata. So this is the message he's giving in this entire chapter 3. It's a good summary in this 19th shloka. Do you understand that for Arjuna, his obligatory action is to fight in Kurukshetra war, right? And your obligatory karma will be different because we are not in Dwapar Yug, we are not Kshatriyas, right? In that sense. So everybody has to analyze their life and see कि मेरा नियतम karma क्या है? What is my obligatory action? You have to get that out of the way. Do it and do it well. And then you have to perform yajna. And yajna means not only Bhagavad Yajna, Ramayana Yajna. Yajna means any kind of sacrifice, any kind of dan, any kind of giving, any kind of positive impact for others. Paropakaraha. This is what the Yajna Bhagavan Krishna is speaking about. Okay? All good, everyone? Any questions? बोलो श्री कृष्ण चंद्र भगवान की, बोलो गीता मैया की, बोलो सत्य सनातन धर्म की जय.